Lore Together is proud to be part of the Boss Rush Games Network. Feel free to find out more at bossrushgames.com/network. Hi, I'm Safi.
And I'm Mystic.
And this is Lore Together. This is the podcast where a husband and wife team go over all the world building, storytelling, and characters of video games because it's what we like to do together. We lore together.
Yep, and this is episode 76.
Woohoo! Not a vault number, just an episode number.
But before we get into the show, if you want to contact us, you can do that on Instagram and Twitter at Lore Together. And you can do that on Reddit at Lore Together Pod, or the username Lore Together Pod.
Yes.
And if you'd like to contact us via email, you can do that over at loretogether@gmail.com. If you like to support our podcast, and we hope you do, and we hope you like the podcast at least, you can do that one of two ways. You can either go to patreon.com/loretogether and join us on a per episode pledge basis. We can get early access to episodes as well as behind the scenes stuff, our just started Unreal novel series, and our Let's Plays.
2 different RP Let's Plays now are available to patrons. Woohoo!
Well, I have to buy Skyrim again in order to do mine. Working on that. The other way you can support us is by going to wherever you're listening, and if they allow you to give reviews, give us a review. We appreciate any review you give us, but we would really appreciate those 5-star reviews.
Yes, and that includes Apple, Spotify, Podchaser, and many other fine podcasting platforms. So thank you so much for everyone who's given us a great rating before. We appreciate it, and hearts out to all of you. But I am at full hearts for this episode to be able to listen to Mystic about a game that all he's told me is that we've covered this before, correct?
We've covered the franchise before.
We've covered the franchise before. So we've been like, the last couple of months have kind of been more of like a nostalgia journey for us. Overall, we've been going back to some of our favorites.
This one is no different.
Okay.
Just based on me saying that, you might be able to guess this franchise.
Are we going back to Myst?
Yes.
Oh my God. That was the easiest guess ever.
I mean, there's not many franchises we've gone back to more than once.
Yes.
Like, there's a couple we've gone back to after the first episode.
Yeah.
Metroid, Mortal Kombat. Trying to think of any other ones, especially M ones. I can't at the moment. Just Cause we did 2 episodes on.
We did that. Obviously, Mass Effect we recently went back to. Dragon Age we recently went back to.
Yeah. Fallout we do a few on.
Yeah.
But we're going to go back to Myst because there's more of that franchise to cover.
Woohoo!
We'll be covering the 4th game in the franchise, Myst 4 Revelation.
Now, is there snow in this game? Because obviously I'm expecting this to be somewhat holiday.
There is not.
No. I want my holiday episode. Wait. No, I'm just being whiny.
I tried to find an episode that I could do a holiday game on. I just could not think of one in time. I thought of all sorts of different stuff. Holidays in MMOs. And then I realized that most of the big ones would have been in Elder Scrolls that had lore to them at least.
Yes.
And we already did that episode.
Was that last year or the year before? I'm trying to remember.
I want to say it's the year before. I believe it was episode 20... I think it might have been 25.
Just checked in, and yes, it is episode 25, the Holidays of Tamriel. Yes. So if you want something specifically holiday-focused, you can go there. That was pretty fun. But I guess today we're just going to go back through some worlds.
I decided that
in Myst.
Go back to like a comfort one. You know, a franchise that we've covered a lot, and we can both kind of just riff a little bit on some of it.
It's a good way to end the year, too, is go back
to
something.
Well, it's not our last episode of the year.
Oh.
Our very last episode comes out on New Year's Eve.
Oh, my gosh. So wait, so December gets 3 episodes?
Yes.
Nice. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Okay, so Myst 4 came out in 2004. It was not developed by Cyan.
Quelle horreur.
But by Ubisoft or Ubisoft. I don't know which one is the correct one. It doesn't matter. It's it's a massive conglomerate. I don't care.
How French are you feeling?
Not very.
Okay, Ubisoft.
But Ubisoft Montreal, which is a massive developer. One of the world's largest at over 4,000 people. And that's not Ubisoft with 4,000 people. Just Ubisoft Montreal has 4,000 people.
It's so funny because we like to think about, a lot of people like to think that tech and and essentially video game stuff is all out west, like Canada-wise. I mean, not Canada-wise, California-wise. Sorry, I got my CAs mixed up there, guys. I'm sorry. But really, like up north in Montreal and Toronto and Vancouver, there's some decently big studios doing a lot of work.
Game developers everywhere.
True. That's true, too.
We're in Chicago.
Yes.
Midway was based here.
Yes.
NetherRealm Studios for Mortal Kombat is based here.
Mm-hmm.
WB Game Chicago is based here.
Mm-hmm.
For the longest time, and one place I almost interned at way back in my early college days.
Yes.
Actually, it wasn't. Okay, interning is the wrong word. Temp work would have been the better word. Is Intelligent Technologies.
Yes.
I believe they're called, which is some suburb to the north. But they are the ones who did, I believe it's called Incredible Golf or something. It's like one of the biggest grossing arcade games.
Oh, wow.
So known throughout bars the worldwide, I'm sure. So, yeah. And if you go up into, I can see why you think that it's like out west in the northern North America, because you know you have California, you have which with all of its developers through Los Angeles and stuff, you have Spokane, you have Redmond, Washington, you have Vancouver, you have all those big cities that have known developers or are near known developers. BioWare is in Edmonton, British Columbia, I think. I'm not 100% sure. But I think they're also in that area. I could be totally wrong. I could be misplacing them entirely because I don't know my Canadian provinces.
I think BioWare was in a couple of Canadian provinces. My thing is we just like, in North America in particular, we think of the West Coast as the tech area. Yeah. And as I'm delving more and more into tech is everywhere now. It's infiltrated everything. Yes. So the idea that it only exists in California where E3 happens or kind of happens now. I mean, E3 is kind of a...
there was a BioWare Montreal, too.
There was.
For one project.
Yeah.
Which we will eventually cover.
We will. But at this point, so it's just wanted to point out that, we give more credit to not as out west developers when we're talking about North America.
So this game is a little different from most of the Myst games. Not a drastic departure, but in the fact that there is a lot more focus on the story as a present day thing. Like it covers events of the past, but like the action that we'll be covering kind of takes place in the present day.
Oh, okay.
Which is different than like learning about in Myst 3, we learn about Saavedro and what the brothers did to him in the past.
Because everything is about recovering from mistakes that happened previously.
This is no different.
Yeah.
Now, the one thing that I do say they do in this, a few caveats here. The actors in this game are giving it their all, but it still comes across a little cheesy.
Okay.
It is kind of a hallmark of the genre, full motion video. We're talking green screen, early green screen at this point, 2004. So we're still not really 100% using that tech everywhere yet.
And not everybody is as talented as an actor as, I already forgot the actor's name from who played Saavedro.
Brad Dourif.
Like, he's top tier talent. So yeah, it could be that they couldn't have gotten the same level of talent. Sometimes you luck into that too.
Yeah.
So.
And not to diminish any of the actors.
Yeah.
But it's also like, it is kind of like a hallmark of the genre because maybe the director's like, we're going for a little campy.
It could be that they were going for campy, or it could be more just the fact that it's a skill to act without things to interact with that people were still learning. Now,
they did have some stuff to interact with because much like in Myst 3, you see people, and Riven also did this too to a smaller degree, you see people like climb onto stuff or like walk behind scenery, stuff like that. But this is like the next evolution of Myst 3's technology where it's a big photosphere, but it's like a video sphere because there's stuff moving everywhere.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
this is the last of the pre-rendered games, by the way.
Oh.
So, and there's still two more on that at the end. So the game begins with Achenar writing a letter to the stranger, our player character.
Yes.
There's our 19th century protagonist.
Oh, so we have a very specific place.
Well, if you remember way back in episode 1, we talked about being a unknown person in the 19th century stumbling across the Myst book.
In the desert, right?
In the desert, in New Mexico, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Or what would become New Mexico.
Right.
But we've been that person the whole time. But he's inviting us to Tomana and confessing that Sirrus and Achenar did not die when he burned their prison books as previously believed. Instead, he has imprisoned them within the ages of Spire and Haven in an attempt to reform them.
Oh, Achenar, really?
Yisha, Atreus' daughter, brings us to Tomana. Basically, we've been to Tomana.
Yes.
In Myst 3 for like 2 rooms. There was one door that was kind of like we couldn't go through. This is the part that's behind that door.
Right.
Like the rest of the large complex.
And for Tomana, we actually weren't going to be staying there because at that point, Achenar was making a new home for the Denis, right?
Relishan, yes.
Yes.
But now we are going to Tomana proper, like the rest of the home, essentially, and it's large.
Yeah.
To meet with Achenar. Catherine isn't home. She's off visiting Tay, which is the home of the Rivenese after the collapse of Riven. You do visit it very briefly in Riven.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And Achenar asks us to visit the 2 prison ages with him and determine whether or not the 2 have reformed and are worthy of release.
Interesting.
Yeah, basically we're playing objective mediator between him and Catherine because it wouldn't be a Myst game without some family drama.
God, the drama of it all. Now, I'm going to keep in mind, for those of you who might not have listened to episode 1, around that time, I was making theories as to, Sirrus and Achenar's, personalities. I am not anywhere near a professional when it comes to, mental conditions, mental illness, or anything. I'm just somebody who happens to listen a lot of and read a lot of educated people.
Mm-hmm.
But it sounded like Sirrus was much more of the kind of like born kind of a bad egg manipulator type, and possibly had harmed Achenar to make Achenar more of the, violent controller type, which are archetypes that you see a lot of analysis of in true crime scapes, which is a good chunk of what I listen to in podcasts because I am a millennial woman of our time. But so that's kind of where my brain's going to be as we're talking about analyzing whether or not Sirrus or Achenar are worthy of any kind of redemption.
Well, things are not going to go 100% according to plan.
Oh, they're going to... somebody is going to screw over somebody else.
We then deal with the most annoying puzzle we've ever had, not because it's particularly difficult, but because Achenar gives us feedback the whole time on what we should be doing during it.
Thanks, Achenar. That's everything I ever wanted, was you nagging me about how I can't figure out your puzzle.
Yeah, adjust the slider, change the frequency, yeah. There's every single thing you can do.
Stop it, Achenar. No. Are we going to have to play that part?
Yes, it is at the very beginning. It is literally one of the first things you do.
Thanks for making me angry a week in advance for the live stream.
So this is basically all to calibrate the viewer. And we've seen one of these viewers before on Rhyme.
Yes.
We were using a viewer to see Riven. This is kind of like viewer 2.0.
So, and if you don't, those of you don't remember, it's at the end of the first Myst game.
But only in the real Myst remake.
Right.
But not the 2021 remake yet.
Right. And that is essentially, they gave a little peek of what you could expect to have in the next game.
Yes.
Because there was a note saying we have to keep an eye on what Gen is up to.
Yes. So the viewer can see into Spire and Haven, but it shorts out. Not because of anything we do. In fact, if you want to, one of these, you can back away from it and not play the puzzle, and if you do that a few times, it just shorts out by itself anyway. So
it's just obviously faulty. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, Achenar has to return to Rhyme to basically get parts and crystals to fix it,
right.
Which makes sense.
Yeah.
And leaves us and asks us to keep an eye on Yisha.
How old is Yisha at this point?
I'd hazard maybe 9, 11, something between something like
Okay.
late child, early tween, maybe.
Okay. So let's say 10, just to cut the
Sure.
difference.
Yeah. I don't know for sure. I'm guessing based off of how old the actress looks, but I am a terrible judge of how old kids are.
Watch,
so.
I'm going to talk the live stream, and I'm going to be like, Mystic, that child is 5. What are you talking
Definitely
about?
not 5. So she is definitely older than a 5-year-old.
Okay.
So one of the unforeseen consequences of the crystal Vera shooting out is it tripped the circuits all over the whole area.
Oh, no.
So our first goal as we begin exploring Tamana is to get the power back on. We see Yisha here and there. She talks to us and helps us a little in explaining some of the things like the fact that there's a breaker box.
Right.
Hey. As well as going on about her necklace that she just got during a visit to an age called Serenia.
Serenia.
Yeah,
okay.
We'll get there. But the necklace also is it's a...
Becomes part of a puzzle, I assume.
It is one of the central parts of this whole game.
Interesting.
So once we get the power back on, which is hydroelectric, kind of cool.
I love that.
Yeah. Once we get the power back on, we start walking back when we are knocked out by a mysterious blast and awake much later after nightfall with no sign of Yisha anywhere.
Oh, no.
However, we do find her necklace, which contains the power to view an object's memories.
That is an interesting thing. Now, does that only... So that works in whatever age we're in?
Yes.
Okay.
Like an object itself can have memories, like a statue can have a memory. It's not like the statue itself has a memory. It's like conversations that happened around the statue you can recall.
Okay.
You know, does that make sense? It's like...
Yes.
Yeah. But the one thing we do see is Yisha running from an unknown individual.
Oh, no.
And we do a bit of poking around, eventually find the vault sphere thing, which holds the linking books to Haven and Spire. It's important to note that there is a bit of canon contradiction here.
Okay.
In both Myst and Riven, we see prison books, and they are blank and empty voids for the most part.
Right.
You know, in Myst 1, they are very staticky behind the brothers, but if you make the mistake of going to it, you'll just be in a black void with them above you.
Right.
So, and if you play Riven, you will go into the prison book and see Gen just floating above you, and then he will come after you, and you will swap places.
Yeah.
And here we see that they are fully fleshed out worlds.
Okay. Here's where I would beg to differ. I wouldn't be surprised if Atreus wants to reform them, so he probably gave them a way to get out of the prison book after he wrote this world, this redemption book, but he didn't put in the because there's the linking book, which just gets you there, and then there's which is the book that gets you out, either another linking book to another age, or it's not a linking book, right?
So there is a descriptive book which links you to an age, and there is a linking book which will lead you back out of that age to wherever the linking book was written.
Right.
So if you are on Myst and you write an age book, you can write a descriptive book that'll lead you back to Myst so that you have it when you go to this world and you can come back to Myst. So there's 2 types of books.
Right.
Now, prison books are kind of a weird oddity in some ways. Some fans theorize that before burning the books, Atreus completed the descriptive books, linking them to the prison ages fully so that the brothers could appear.
That's what I would assume, yeah.
This would be contradicted by the fact that Sirrus and Achenar are in their respective prisons for way longer than we've known Atreus.
But he could have been working on that. I mean, Yisha is... Okay, the last time we saw Yisha in 3, she's a baby. Now, there's been a better part of a decade at least, if not a whole decade have passed. That's enough time for someone to decide that they still want to reform the sons that they've...
True, but like they have been living in these worlds for longer than we've known Atreus, and he had a chance to finish that link before burning it.
So what do you mean, like they make some reference that they've been there?
They have journals and stuff. We know that Sirrus is at least there for, I think, 14 years minimum.
Okay. I still don't see how this is a contradiction.
Okay, fair.
I don't see how time went.
I don't know the full time. I don't know the exact timeline. So yeah.
I understand that Myst and Riven are kind of back to back, right?
Yes, I believe it's 6 months. I think.
Okay, so Myst and Riven are kind of back to back, and then there has to be a gap before we get to Myst 3
because they have a kid.
So at least
a year. Let's say at least
2 years.
Okay.
Because Catherine wasn't pregnant when we saw her, or at least she wasn't showing. I don't assume that she...
Right, but I believe Yisha's like 3 months at the time, so...
Right. But that's what I mean, is like, she had to get pregnant.
Yes.
And then she had to have the kid.
Okay.
So 3 months. So
I was doing the absolute bare minimum time, but fair.
I think the math can work out. I think it's this, of all the plot holes to highlight, this doesn't seem like one that causes a lot of problems. I kind of like the explanation that the ages were just always there, and Cyan didn't want to reward the player with a new location they can only get by failing in the first game. You know? Mm-hmm. So it'd be kind of weird to have this world there. Of course, obviously, Cyan just probably didn't know A, that Myst was going to become this thing, and B, that this was going to be a story point. I also think that the way they wrote it in is not contradictory to what they've set up. I honestly don't.
Well, here's why this is a problem. So within the Myst canon, mm-hmm. all of it is real.
Right.
Cyan is basing it off of documentation that they have found.
Okay.
And we'll get to that in a later episode. So it's kind of like trying to resolve that canon idea with continuity problems within it. It's like, well, where's the flaw in it?
You don't have complete documents. That's why.
Which is the one I kind of go with too.
I think you're overthinking this, and I'm saying that as somebody who overthinks this all the time.
It still doesn't explain why, they keep saying that we want to remake it to what we always envision when they talk about making mm-hmm. Myst again, or, the technological limitations. But then in the 2021 remake, they didn't have Haven and Spire in the background, mm-hmm.
in
the static at least, or at least a hint of it.
Maybe because it wasn't made yet. I still don't think they weren't written yet. I don't think they were written yet because Atris didn't feel motivated to solve the problem yet.
Maybe it's the fact that it's his sons that makes him do it. It's a fair point. Then again, just to kind of dig my little knife in here, the fact that it didn't add anything else lore-wise to the 2021 remake is a sore spot for me.
I mean, that you can be as mad about as you want. I think you can be.
They've always said there was more they would have done if they had the tech back in the day, and they didn't when given the chance. It's like, come on.
Well, I think the one thing that's a sore spot for you is the rooms. There was a space.
Where did they live?
There was a space for the rooms. They've talked about there being a space for the rooms, and then they've just never felt the need to add it in. And that's just a little detail that would have been interesting to see how these adult children live with their parents.
Right.
So,
Atris did take care with each prison age to make sure that it was habitable for human life.
Uh-huh.
And when he left the books, he didn't know his sons were going to be the ones trapped in them. Nevertheless, they each found themselves in one of them. So we'll start with Haven.
Okay.
It is a wild island of jungle filled with many creatures. And of course, there is an island. Atris specifically wrote in a ship, much like Stone Ship back on Myst. Okay. Though here it was to make the place seem inhabited, to kind of lure in greedy explorers who would see the image on the page. And while walking under the nest of the indigenous Mangrees, Atris was dismayed that he did not have the time to stay longer and let them become his friends, because Atris is Atris.
Of course. I am a benevolent god.
He would hate being called a god even.
I know. But he is a creator.
Yes.
He did, even if he didn't create this world, if the theory is he created the link, that's still...
He then took a few brief moments to watch the sunset over the freshwater lake, then swam out into the middle of a swamp and linked back to Myst, letting the linking book fall into the swamp and be destroyed.
Oh, wow.
Spire is much more fantastical. The age is made up of large, mineral-rich rock and crystal floating islands among several layers of clouds, with spires emerging from the cloud layers. The age is characterized by stormy weather, though the storms never reach the center of the layers. They're always in the top layer or the bottom layer. They're never in the middle.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
No civilizations ever inhabited this age, although the land was purposely made to be shaped with natural formations that resembled stairways, gigantic detailed columns, and perfectly dimensioned arches that have sharp angles, and some even have designs carved in them. Though looking sculpted, they are all formed by the wind.
That sounds like Catherine helped with that one.
To a greedy explorer, it seemed that as if it was the watchtower of some gem-studded castle from the image.
Mm-hmm.
On his first and sole foray into the age, Achenar walked through the massive stone archway, searching for a view beneath the clouds and finding none. The mysterious harmonic sounds made him feel that he was being followed by ghosts of an ancient civilization. He found floral caverns and was reassured that the age could support human life.
Oh, good.
As with Haven, he left with some regret, such as the fact that he had no time to determine the source of the harmonic sounds. He linked back to Myst, holding the linking book out over the clouds, letting it drop to the void.
Okay. Wow, very purposeful.
Yes. Structurally, we do see that Achenar can't write his way out of an ocean to save his life, whether it be an ocean of water or an ocean of clouds. Though I suppose even the worlds like Denis, Earth, are still an island in a vast sea at some level.
Right.
There has to be a border to your creation at some point, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I did say we'd get to some drama, so let's touch on that. What happened to the sons was unintended at first. The books are both there to lure greedy, unknown explorers. We finally understand more of the timeline before their rampage through Narayan in Myst 3 and the rest of the ages before the sons were trapped in these two prison ages. We know Sirrus's materialistic and evil bend was heavily influenced by the black ships and the Ebony Cardinal on the Mechanical Age.
Right.
It's non-canon, but it's an official story that Cyan kind of cut the comic off short when the publisher refused to reprint the comic because they literally swapped character names around.
Oh, no.
For the whole comic, Sirrus is labeled as Achenar and Achenar is labeled as Sirrus, and they are very different people.
You can't. No, they're very intentionally very different.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I argue that the Black Ships is the first truly evil influence in his life, even if we don't count the possible epigenetics and his grandfather.
Yeah, because Gen did not help raise these boys.
No. But Gen was definitely a narcissistic megalomaniac.
Yes. And I wouldn't be surprised if there is some idea that can be passed down.
But there could be some influence we don't hear of. We don't have like a biography for the characters. You know, the most we know about is Achenar.
Yeah.
So.
And again, I still stick to the theory that Achenar was trying to raise them to be thoughtful creators and just honestly thought the ethics would come with that because he's genuinely a good person, and he just didn't think that his children would have to learn that inherently. He just thought, I'm a good person, Catherine's a good person, why wouldn't they just pick that up?
Yeah.
And kids don't just pick that up. You have to be intentional with those lessons.
Yeah. And a lot of it comes from Anna. And when Anna died,
yes,
visiting one of Catherine's ages, beyond that, we don't know anything.
Wow.
The family bond, once strong and loving, began to completely unravel. Catherine writes, to deal with the loss of his grandmother, Achenar buried himself in work, spending less and less time with our sons.
Mm-hmm.
At 8 years old, Sirrus must have seen this as rejection. But even then, his pride was too well formed to let it show. As for Achenar, he'd never know how to channel his emotions appropriately. I do not excuse the crimes committed. Sirrus and Achenar shattered so many lives in far worse ways than Anna's death shattered ours. It is for this reason I have stood by Atreus' decision and left my sons imprisoned all these years. But I cannot escape my own culpability in this, for when Sirrus and Achenar needed me most, I was too consumed by sorrow to see.
And I feel bad because it's as I assumed. They didn't know that they were being neglectful. It's hard, and who was going to teach them that? Achenar.
Yeah, being parents is hard.
Achenar. Like, I don't know anything about Catherine's upbringing. I know she had siblings, and I know she had a full community around her.
Yeah.
It was also a community raised around a cult by a megalomaniac, so there was going to be some issues with that. But for Atreus very specifically, we know he was raised by his grandmother, and that was pretty much his world, just the two of them. He is very used to very small worlds. By the time his grandmother died, his world had basically tripled because and tripled in a way where he didn't grow up with other kids either.
No.
So he doesn't
know. The best he had was a cat.
He doesn't know what to expect. Like, it's just one of those things where, of course, he was going to be selfish about his grief because he didn't have any way to compare about what good grief was going to be. Catherine may have had an opportunity, but then again, she was raised in a cult. So it just makes perfect sense to me that they would have completely failed on this and not realized that they needed a community or needed something else to help balance out their feelings with how they have to manage their children's feelings as well.
Yeah. Catherine had the idea that they should insert secure chambers in each of the prison ages so that nobody could get through, but they could still meet their sons again in person and have a safe point for a linking book back to Tamana. Mm-hmm. So they wrote in the chambers, and the Dunny survivors living on Relation build one in Tomana.
Oh, wow.
Catherine is understandably still distressed and kind of torn about all of this.
Right.
Upon the first time meeting after decades, at least a decade, if not more, Catherine writes, "It's so hard. I watch Sirrus and Achenar trying to communicate, and it feels like knife blades ripping through my heart. They don't know how to relate to each other. Achenar speaks only from emotions, and Sirrus fears he has made his son a savage. Only my presence keeps things from fraying. It's easier with Sirrus. They share a love of science, and Sirrus's willingness to discuss advancements he's made ignites a similar excitement in Sirrus. Yet even then, Sirrus doesn't believe. He's unwilling to trust, because he knows what monsters they must have been. I must find a way to resolve this. I must break through Sirrus's doubts and let him see what he cannot."
Well, and again, let's talking about toxic family dynamics. There's this notion, and this world doesn't have a lot of the same issues that our world has.
Right.
But it is interesting that this story written by people of our world mirrors this idea that the matriarch or a woman in the family has to burden the emotional labor of everybody else. Like, that is our burden as women. And I'll say this, in our household, we've been very good about not doing that, even though it's too early to tell how well that's going to last because little buddy's only 2.
Yeah.
But I will say Mystic has tried very hard to not be essentially just offloading all of his emotions on me and expected me to resolve all of it for him. But that is a common idea in our society right now, and there's just so many women who are just exhausted by it because it doesn't. And the thing is, people don't understand, it doesn't only happen with you at home, but you go to work and you have a certain boss or a coworker who's like, well, you're a woman, I can confess my emotions to you. And it's like, no, I'm here to do my job. Right. And then you have certain friends group where, your guy friends, they have their guy friends that probably can relate better to their problems, but their gal friends are the ones they do this emotional dumping on. And then they'll go on, and then you go on a date and you're trying to find somebody and they've met you for the first time and they're emotionally dumping on you. I mean, it's crazy. All the link back to Catherine, feeling this. And also she probably is the one in this family who has the most idea of what a community is supposed to look like.
That's true.
And it makes sense that for her, then she's trying to see, okay, so this is how you resolve a conflict. I'm the one that has the most experience with this, with everybody involved here. Let me try to resolve it.
Yeah. And I think that's where we actually come into the whole thing, being a mediator between, like, Atreus's I must logic this out.
Yeah.
And, particularly Achenar being, much more uncontrolled emotion.
Yeah.
So, that being said, we also get some glimpse into the new family life with Yisha, how they think they are keeping their arguing and disagreements from her, but she's perceptive enough that she's picking up on everything.
The idea that your kid will not pick up that you guys are having an argument is just such a fallacy.
I'm pretty sure little buddy at 2 has picked up when we're both like kind of annoyed,
snippy at each other.
Yeah.
Like we don't really have big arguments. I think we did the same thing that my mom said she did. I remember years ago my mom said, "Yeah, you guys never really saw us fight because we had all our fights before you were born." And I feel like that's the same thing with Mystic and I. Like our big like life fights happened before we had a kid.
Yeah.
Lucky us. And but you know, there's times when like, you know, I'm in a bad mood, you're in a bad mood, and like we're irritated about dishes or laundry or little buddy puking.
And little buddy just goes on a "I love you" hugging spree.
Yeah, because he realizes that there's some tension. He's trying to diffuse it. And then we're like, we need to stop because we shouldn't be doing this in front of him.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm sure you, Mystic, remember times when your parents had a fight and they were trying to hide it from you and they failed. I know I remembered that. And I know my parents talk about when they saw their parents doing it. Specifically, my father remembers certain fights were said in German, so the kids didn't understand what they were fighting about. And my dad had figured out some German based on those fights.
But suffice to say, Yisha is very perceptive and very intelligent for her age.
She's been raised. She comes from a very intelligent family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's go into Achenar and the Age of Haven, because that's where he ended up.
So he's in the jungle.
Yes. When he was first trapped on Haven, Achenar didn't even realize he was actually trapped, and he spent time hunting the wildlife. It was only when he tried to return that he realized his predicament.
And that makes sense, because it sounds like they're describing someone who's more following their whims.
Yeah. He then basically went into a rage, hunting a species of predatory aquatic animals called the Serpenti to extinction. Basically, these are like large, they look kind of like whale-type things. I can't remember off the top of my head. You only see a skeleton.
Oh, wow.
So he also hunted a tribe of the native monkey people we talked about, the Mangri.
Oh.
However, we also find out that he eventually befriended several of the southern tribe Mangri as well. This was after his rampage against the northern tribe and the Serpenti, so perhaps he's been realizing an error in his ways. They even gave him a name, so they must have liked him to some degree. One thing we don't find at all is any sign of Achenar.
Oh.
We do find evidence of him breaking into the secure chamber and accessing the Tomana linking book, though, so that's a problem.
Oh, no.
Let's head to Spire next. This is a bit longer. We have more journals, basically, for Sirrus. Achenar didn't do a ton of writing.
Achenar just seems to be so in the moment that he's not going to reflect as much as somebody like Sirrus would.
Yes. And it's interesting because it feels, when you see them acting, like these actors acting, Sirrus is definitely much more cool, kind of collected.
Yeah.
Or at least coming across as collected. And they kind of give Achenar, like, he's definitely not Myst 1 Achenar.
Who was completely nutso.
Which I think was just an acting choice, because the stuff that we have in this game that takes place before that, he's not like that either.
Yeah.
So I think that's just an acting choice between Rand Miller in Myst 1 and this actor. And I think that this one's the better one. Although they do kind of make him come across a little bit kind of, how do I put it, brutish caveman, like a little bit mixed in there.
So Rand and Robin do not reprise their roles.
No.
I'm assuming Rand still stays Atris?
Yes.
But when it comes to Achenar and Sirrus,
yeah, they have actual actors, because Rand's not an actor. The only person he's ever played, as far as I'm aware, is Atris.
And Achenar.
And Achenar, yes, sorry, fair. But so soon after Sirrus arrived in Spire, he realized he was trapped and there were no inhabitants to rule over.
Yeah.
Kind of his big thing. Riches and ruling. He spent his first nights at a small clearing where he built a campfire. Thinking Atris had dropped his Myst linking book over the side of the palace, he used a rope to descend into the heart of the main palace. Basically, it's called a palace. It's not, but it looks like one.
Right, because it's constructed by wind.
Yes.
Yeah.
There he stumbled upon a cavern filled with plants that were, he says, not scrumptious or numerous, but at least nutritious. So he established his permanent living quarters there. Fair enough. By the 6th month of his imprisonment, he had also set up a lab.
Okay.
Yeah. I forget to mention that at one point in Haven, Achenar does kind of create a house.
Yeah.
But it's definitely not as elaborate as you would expect. He spent most of his time during the first few months trying to reach the ground. Sorry, Sirrus spent most of his time during the first few months trying to reach the ground, but was unable to get below the first cloud layer.
Huh.
Seeing lights in a nearby palace, he hoped that they were inhabited after all. Kind of like in Stone Ship.
Yes.
Achenar had no idea where the other people came from.
They just happened to come.
So he was kind of hoping like maybe Father wrote this and didn't realize that would happen again.
Oh.
And Sirrus doesn't know the art. Achenar doesn't know the art.
Right.
They were in Myst 3 was started for them to learn the elements of writing the art.
Yes.
But Achenar kind of like stopped it after that. He didn't really kind of push them into learning it, probably because he saw like something's weird with these two. Or maybe they weren't interested, or,
They weren't. It's probably that, for Achenar, he's a bit of an explorer. Like, this is a way to venture and see new and exciting things. And Sirrus and Achenar aren't here for the new and exciting things. Yeah. They're here for their different needs.
Vices.
Yeah, their needs for control in different ways. I feel like that's like a theme between those two brothers, is that they have different control issues, and that's why Achenar is more of like a hunter terrorizer, and Sirrus is much more of a a manipulator, controlled, wealth, riches, power hungry kind of dude.
For the next 10 years, he conducted Sirrus. Sorry, I keep jumping.
Yes.
We keep conversing. So for the next 10 years, Sirrus conducts several experiments with magnetic properties of the rocks here. Mm-hmm. And he basically kind of seems to have some reflection finally. Quote, "Another storm is brewing as I write this. I can feel the hairs of my arms starting to rise. I am almost crazed with anticipation, waiting to test the first conductor. My God, is this what Father felt every time his hand hovered above the panel of a book he'd just written? Did he feel this much excitement as he stood poised to learn if his theories had worked? Why did he never share this with me? If he had, perhaps things would have been different between us."
Right. And again, I feel like that's showing Atreus's failing of like, well, they're just like me. I made mini-me's. And
well, he also forgets that he was taught Dunny by Anna.
Yes.
And his first time going to an age was with his father.
Yes.
But his father, for all of Gen's faults, Gen fully understands the awe of like traveling to a world.
Yes.
For all of his evil maniacal thoughts and everything, he at least understands this is awesome.
Yeah.
You should be in awe that we can do this.
Right. And this is why the Denis were such a successful,
Yes.
Yeah.
So, they didn't have, maybe Achenar didn't nurture it. He's like, yeah, it's cool, watch. But he didn't foster that in the same way that Gen did. Again, for all his faults.
Yeah, I think, well, and Gen also got Achenar after all of the hard work of raising him was done.
This is also true.
Like, Gen basically said, "Peace out, Mom, bye," and then said, "Oopsies, I'm gonna do reverse. He's now old enough for me to teach him the art. I'm gonna take him back."
And even then, half of the hard work was already done because Anna had taught him Dunny.
Yeah.
To the point that they talked in Dunny.
They talked in Dunny, and she also fostered with him the idea of exploration and learning and discovery, and not to be afraid of what's new and different.
That's true.
And that takes years. Like, that's just not anything that happens overnight.
So we're saying that Gen had a massive, massive, massive assist in every single thing.
Huge assist.
Which is true.
He had a huge assist. True. And so now Achenar has to do this all on his own. The only other person he knew how to do it was Anna. And that's the thing, like, you think you're imitating what your parents do, but you might not really know how to do it.
Yeah, it's like you know you know how to bake a cake, but you don't know all the little nuances of like how the mixing was done, where the recipe comes from.
You gotta do the cooking by the book.
Huh?
I was just repeating a meme.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. Oh, anyway, no, I think that's right. So it kind of reminds me of, speaking of cooking by the book. So my mom has this killer recipe for mac and cheese, right? Now, if I hadn't been raised by my mom, if I was basically just told by my dad, who doesn't cook in the same way, he's more of a griller / like he likes to make ratatouille, but he wouldn't do something like mac and cheese, which is an oven bake with like a roux base sauce mac and cheese. I can't eat Kraft mac and cheese because she ruined it for me. But if my dad had said, look, your mom used to make mac and cheese and this is what she got out of the recipe book, it wouldn't be the same as over the years learning how my mom made mac and cheese, making it with her, having her tell me how to do it, you know, basically to the point where now it's practically become my recipe.
Because you still put your own twist on it. It's not exact carbon copy. It's the same when it comes to parenting. You may try to emulate what your parents do, but it's not going to be 100%.
You know,
or hopefully you don't emulate what your parents do in some cases.
In some cases. And you hope that you have a good role model or resource that you can go to. I mean, and we're lucky for us, it's our parents, but other people just have other communities. Atris is kind of on his own, and then to lose his grandmother when his oldest was what, 8? 8.
Well, no, Sirrus was 8. Achenar is older.
Oh,
I believe. Am I getting that backwards? I don't
I
remember.
thought Achenar was the younger one.
I might be getting that backwards.
But still.
Either way,
the work's not over.
They're only 2 years apart, so
yeah, the work's not over. It's just, you know.
You make me feel very, very self-conscious about the fact that we have a 2-year-old right now.
I think we always were. I don't think that would have been any different.
That's fair. It's going to be a lot of work. Anyway.
Moving on.
Eventually, Sirrus finds a way to create a ship out of one of the larger rocks that he could use to fly to the nearby palace. Basically, he is set up. He very slowly managed to grab one of these big rocks.
Oh, yeah?
Like, he has to basically corral one of these big rocks, and it takes forever. And through a bunch of experimentation, he blows the first one. Doesn't blow it up, but he blows the first one, and he has to start all over again, slowly getting another rock to come near and everything.
Oh, wow.
With these currents. And he finally managed to make it so that he can levitate this rock and have it fly, actually, which is...
Well, mind blown.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So and they say in 1811. Now, I don't know the year for when he arrived, so that's kind of a weird thing, but we are starting to use human years because we're starting to get towards human timelines.
Okay.
So Sirrus tried his first ship and it failed, like I said. It wasn't until 4 years later that he would finally succeed in reaching the nearby palace. And upon finally descending below the first cloud layer, he discovered to his horror, and I thought this was really cool, that the formations he lived on floated above a gas giant.
Oh, wow.
And that the age was truly uninhabited.
Oh, he had all this hope that he wasn't alone. And then he had all these plans.
Yeah.
And then just fell out from under him.
But it's interesting, you know, you can obviously see where both of these two are going. One has found kind of a modicum of peace, and the other one has been just trying constantly to whatever. Declaring he would not be defeated, like literally, like, I am Sirrus, I will not be defeated. And then he just kind of dejectedly walks off.
Oh my gosh.
Toward the time we arrive in Spire, he has also found frequencies that cause the minerals in the area to vibrate and has used it to create bombs.
So now he's feeling a little more destructive now that he doesn't have anyone to have dominion over.
Once again, we find no evidence of Sirrus in Spire, though evidence suggests he used one of these bombs to gain access to the Tomana linking book.
So we believe both Sirrus and Achenar both have motive to try to get to Tomana linking book.
Yes.
And have the ability to get there.
Yes. Regardless of where we go first, when we return to Tomana from the first age we visit, we find Achenar, who links to Serenia, having stolen the linking book from Yisha's bedroom.
Serenia.
Yes.
And
the place that Yisha got her necklace from.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Wait. Oh, no. Oh, God. That's not good.
We can then choose to either follow him or visit the other prison age, but since we already covered both of them, let's follow him to Serenia.
Yeah.
Serenia is actually written by Catherine, and it's not recent either.
So, if you remember when we talked about the Book of Achenar, like,
Yes.
Catherine does... Part of the reason I said that I thought that she did Sirrus's Prison World... I'm sorry, the name of it again, you just said it. Spire. Is because she has these fantastical, grand visions of how physical interactions with, like, the features would work. Like, there was this idea of, like, this weird reverse waterfall coming from nowhere, and the water was, like, flowing up in a way.
Yeah.
And I remember, and she just, and that Atris was like, this is why Gen would want to marry her, because she's brilliant and would make all these beautiful worlds for him to conquer. And also, Atris just genuinely had an appreciation for how good she was at the art.
Yeah. Now, Serenia is not recent. Both brothers had been there as children. In fact, Serenia was one of the last places they both visited before being trapped in their respective ages. They actually went to Serenia after the rampage on Narayan.
Oh, wow.
And trapping Saavedra on Jananan.
Oh, wow.
They went to Serenia, and they didn't lay waste to it. They had a whole separate plan that we're going to get to for this place. But like all of Catherine's works with the art, this age looks like it's conjured out of a dream in some ways. There's still some physicality here that makes sense. There are inhabitants here. And
she keeps things consistent within that world, but it's so much more fantastical.
Yeah.
Than anything that, like, Gen or Atris has created in comparison.
It doesn't look like any age concocted by the more rigidly constrained Denis writers, because she doesn't feel the need of those constraints. Yeah. Unlike Inception, the work you just talked about from the Book of Atris, this one is inhabited. The Serenians have a singular aspect to their culture that will come to play here, and that is the memory chamber.
Well, if they are in a place where the idea that you can read objects from memory.
Yes. Legends of the Memory Chamber talk about the first being created from the grief of parents losing their child and being unable to bury him where they wanted.
Oh, wow.
Basically, they wanted to carry him up a waterfall and bury him at the base of the waterfall. Their grief would not even give them the strength to do that, so they set him down beside a flower, and the mother was crying. The flower was moved by her grief and told them to take the body and place it into her pistil. This is the female sex organ of a flower, if you were wondering.
Yeah, if you forgot what that was from whatever grade of science you took that from.
You've all heard it from some bio class. Kids, ask your parents.
It's not pistol. Pew pew.
Right. Pistil.
Yes.
Where his memories would be stored, and they could revisit him whenever they wanted.
Oh, that's really a sweet story.
Then the flower passed one of the tears back through the roots, turning it into a container to hold memories, and the father dove underwater to collect it. This flower became the first memory chamber and took the memories of all the dead to a place called Dream, which is a bit like a cloudy, ethereal space.
Okay.
The Serenians who protect the memory chambers are called protectors. Easy enough. In reality, quote-unquote, the plant was written by Catherine as the fruiting body of a massive fungus which recycles dead organic material into nutrients, in this case, memory globes filled with memories.
Oh, interesting.
The delicate inner heart of the chamber emits a strong fragrance as part of its reproductive cycle. However, as the plant matures, the gas becomes more toxic. When the plant becomes too old, the protectors find a new flower.
Interesting.
Yeah. As we explore Serenia, we do catch up with Achenar. He quickly runs off before we can even confront him. Upon further exploration, we run into Anya, one of the 6 protectors of the age. All the protectors are female.
Oh, okay.
She informs us that she has not seen Yisha since they gave her the necklace, basically, though she fears she may be in trouble and goes to gather the rest of the protectors. After a short while wandering, as we wait to meet with the protectors, we encounter Sirrus, who is gathering empty memory globes with the Harvester, which is kind of like a submersible vehicle.
Oh, my God. Okay.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he notices us and blows the Harvester up with one of his bombs, running away in the chaos.
Oh, God. Okay, so it sounds like they're coming back to enact the plan they wanted to do years ago.
At the memory chamber, we find more evidence that Sirrus and Achenar have kidnapped and trapped Yisha, strapping her to a chair in what looks like a memory chamber. Basically, we get like visions.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Hard to tell what's going on. It's all kind of blurry and weirdly focused. So.
Wow.
Yeah. Upon leaving, another protector named Yanin. By the way, I had to look up all these names because they were not in the wiki, and I had to go through like this old internet wayback machine to a wiki that has been long gone. And yeah. Another protector named Yanin explains that without the harvester, they cannot gather memory globes and the process will remain at a standstill.
Uh-oh.
She suggests that we should visit the Hall of Spirits, where several protectors are gathered to learn of Yisha's fate in Dream.
Right, so they're going to try to connect to these memories to see if they have a memory that connects to where Yisha is right now.
Yeah, the world has a memory that seems almost prophetic.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So, another encounter, like, to the point that some of the priests are like, oh, you weren't supposed to show up until third bell. You're here early. You know?
Wow.
So,
okay.
So it's like mildly prophetic. What you going to do? Another encounter with Yunanin explains that there is a spare harvester near a different memory chamber, one which was abandoned due to the toxin levels.
Oh.
As we head that way, basically, we run across Achenar, who has just stolen the Life Stone, an integral part of the memory chamber that will eventually cause it to collapse when removed.
Oh, no.
He explains that, though it looks bad, he's only stealing to stop Sirrus, who he claims is crazy and has kidnapped Yisha and will return the stone when he is assured Sirrus's plan has failed. He begs us not to bring Atris, as Sirrus wants to kill him, and points us to his old journal, which details their plan before he runs off.
Oh, and he runs off again? You can't capture him or
Can't
anything?
capture him.
Oh, man.
Basically, he left a journal that he was writing back in the day here on Serenia, hidden in a like a stone column.
Wow.
And their plan is basically jury-rig the old memory chamber to allow it to strip a person's memories.
Whoa.
Something they intended to use on Atris. Like, that was their big plan.
To strip him of his memories?
Basically, we're just going to slowly take this from you, and then maybe they would use that to learn the art themselves.
Instead of,
It's kind of unfocused what they're doing with that, because Achenar is not very verbose.
No, and and again, he's a man of whims. He doesn't want to spend a lot of time.
So the fact that he has a journal at all is impressive.
Yeah.
We run into a third protector named Caradel, who suspects us of stealing the Life Stone and tells us to basically get about some busy work to prove our innocence.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so busy work's probably the wrong thing. She tasks with finding the Life Stone again, as well as alerting the other protectors who are in the Hall of Spirits.
Yeah, that's not busy work, Mystic. I don't know what you were thinking there.
She kind of comes across as kind of like, well, you have to go do this then, and this, and this, and it, okay. But yeah, you're right. It's what we have to do anyway.
She's just a leader, and
that's true.
And we're not used to having that in this game.
That's also true. In the Hall of Spirits, a fourth protector named Zanika mentions that they went to Dream looking for answers, but the spirits did not make sense to them, and tells us that we must go to Dream ourselves.
I wonder if it's showing... I know you're going to tell me, but I wonder if it's showing places that they don't know about because they haven't been to those ages.
It's more like it's showing them things that they don't know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But it's... Yeah, I mean, essentially you're right. It's showing them stuff that they'd have no context for.
Right.
So the problem is that we need a spirit guide to be in Dream or we will perish.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, Dream is ethereal currents that will rip you apart without a spirit guide, basically.
Okay.
So if you perish in Dream, you can't return. Your body basically has no memories, no mind. So
you die in the Matrix, you die in the real world.
Essentially, yeah. Depending on our actions throughout the game so far, and I'm not even joking about that, like, remember when I said that you can back away from the puzzle at the beginning?
Yeah.
That is one of these check boxes that will determine what element you are attuned to.
Oh.
Like, there's a bunch of optional actions you can take or how quickly you do things or route you take will determine which of these three elements you are the child of: water, wind, or fire.
Nice. Very cool. No earth, just water, wind, or fire?
No earth.
Yeah. Not earth, wind, and fire?
No.
They were very specifically not trying to reference the band there. Okay.
We are told where to find a guide, whichever element we are part of, and that guide requires that we give them an appropriate offering, and then we return to the memory chamber where we explore Dream. We don't really explore. It's more like you're floating in a weird abyss. After solving one of the most eye-twisting and headache-inducing puzzles I've ever seen...
Oh no. So we're not doing that on the live stream, right?
We are given a color combination of some sort and return to Serenia.
Oh, is it like a Simon Says situation?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
Upon exiting the chamber, the player again runs into Anya, who has returned to guard the memory chamber and block all access to it, including blocking us from it.
What?
We basically, no one's getting in here until we fix this. Stuff's
Okay.
going crazy.
All right.
We then run into Sirrus outside the second and much older and presumably toxin-filled memory chamber.
Oh no.
He lies to us, I mean, let's be honest here, and tells us that Achenar has kidnapped Yisha and will kill her unless he helps him steal all of Serenia's treasure.
Okay, so here's the thing about that. Achenar's a bad liar. Like,
Yeah.
it's just from what I know from the first game is that Achenar's just not. He's
He's too emotional to really kind of get across with a bald-faced lie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's more of an intimidator.
Yeah.
Like he's much more like if he was going to be evil.
Intimidation, torture, that was his whole thing.
He's an evil barbarian. He would have essentially found a way to overpower you if that was genuinely what he was going to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Sirrus doesn't know we've met Achenar and actually talked to him.
Suddenly I have this image of Achenar as a pack lead.
Okay. Yeah, I see it. Star Trek, if you guys are wondering.
Yeah, it's it's actually not an accurate one, but it's the kind of the same.
It's not 100% inaccurate.
Well, I wouldn't say he's unintelligent, but I would say he is very much like short steps to get to goals. Like,
it's funny. They kind of give him like this little bit of Cro-Magnon, kind of like
yeah.
like very like has to really think through what he's gonna say. I think that may just be because on Spire, I think that Sirrus kind of talked to himself a lot and kind of really kind of amped up his own ego and hatred and everything. Whereas on Haven, he's more animalistic. He is hunting. He is dealing with very primitive. He's not alone either. He has sentient, or at least.
But did they speak English? I wouldn't be surprised
they gave him
wouldn't.
a name, so he has to communicate.
So he might not. He might have to be switching back and forth from English to the Haven language, essentially.
Or he just didn't talk much. Maybe it was more gesture. Maybe it was more whatever. Who knows?
Yeah.
We know that Sirrus keeps logs. I don't think we find a log for Achenar. I don't think he wrote a log. So
right,
I think
exactly.
maybe after a decade, language is just not as he has to think about it more. So
Interesting.
So Sirrus explains that he only destroyed the Harvester to stop Achenar from poisoning the memory chamber, as his solitude in Haven made him go insane, and Achenar only wants to destroy everything, which isn't 100% inaccurate to Myst 1 Achenar.
But the solitude part we know is actually, if we had gone to Haven. Now, this might be easier to believe if we went to Spire than went to, what's this world called again? I'm sorry.
Haven.
No. If we went to Sirius's prison world. Spire. And then we proceeded to go straight, not to Haven.
That's fair. Yeah.
But
that's
to
fair.
the other. So you could possibly believe that because you'd be still thinking about Myst 1 Achenar.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. So yeah, if you went from Spire to, what's this one called?
Serenia. Yeah.
If you went from Spire to Serenia, you hadn't visited Haven, and you were trying to suss this out, this might feel reasonable. But also, Sirrus is a manipulative liar, so I don't know.
He flat out commands us to return to Tamana and fetch Atris, as Achenar is afraid of him, and then shuts and locks the door to the second memory chamber.
That's toxic, right?
We don't know. It's safe to assume that it's not if he's going in there. Yeah, I can explain it later. Luckily, we went into the dream, and got the. We went to Dream and got the color combination Sirrus uses for the lock under the chamber. We also need one other randomly generated code from Spire, but this is not a walkthrough.
Okay.
Inside, we find Sirrus inside a steel coffin and Yisha tied to a steel chair.
Whoa.
She begs us to pull the silver lever and release her before Achenar comes back to kill them both. As we move to release her, or not, Achenar runs into the room with a crossbow and tells us that Sirrus removed Yisha's memory with the chair and implanted his own within her with the intent to trick Atris and Catherine into teaching him the art.
Oh. So Yisha is not fully Yisha.
Not right now.
Wow.
Sirrus, as Yisha, protests, calling him crazy and claim that Achenar killed Sirrus when he stole the Life Stone. Achenar admits he stole the Life Stone to stop Sirrus from hurting Atris, but didn't realize he was planning on using Yisha.
Yeah.
You know, the plan was we're going to kill Father,
not Yisha.
And not use Yisha as a vehicle to learn the art.
Right. And on top of that, if Achenar is dealing with information from over a decade ago, Yisha was not part of the plan, period.
Right. But they've met Yisha. Yisha
really?
is not new to them. She has met all of them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they have all been to those chambers and met each other. Achenar tried to give her a gift, and Atris is like, no, he's nuts.
Why would you? Okay, all right, okay. Well, back up for just a minute. You think that Sirrus and Achenar are horrible people who've done horrible things to worlds of innocent. I guess the best word I can think of off the top of my head is subjects of your ages, right?
Yeah.
And you decide to introduce your impressionable daughter to them? It
gets really weird.
You let them know they have a younger sister, period? I mean, this is questionable. Maybe let them know. Obviously, if Catherine ends up going there and being like, sorry, I can't stay long, I have to take care of Yisha, or sorry, I'm pregnant, or something like that.
Well, no, they didn't know. Yisha was born after they put these chambers in and everything.
Right.
So, yeah, Yisha's been in the picture the whole time that they've had contact with the brothers. And it gets weird. Catherine went and visited the Ages before, she was supposed to, before she told Atris that they were going to.
Oh.
I don't 100% remember if it was before or after the chambers were built, but she went there, once or twice before. So, yeah, there's a lot of drama and people not communicating properly.
It feels like an unnecessary danger, right?
Well, these chambers were supposed to be the safe reason. So they were like, you do have a sister. This is Yisha. They don't want to. I think Yisha has known about the brothers.
Yes.
Because literally, on Atris's desk and over the mantle and the fireplace, there have been pictures of the brothers.
Right.
So it seems kind of weird also to not have her at least meet them. I don't think it's been a consistent everyday thing, although we do know that Sirrus and Atris were playing chess.
Here's the thing. She should know about her brothers, but she's 10 years old. Does she really need the influence of these manipulative murderers in her life?
I don't think she wants to see them by herself.
That's just not, but still.
I get what you're saying, but what do you want me to do?
I don't know. There's a spectrum on this, right? For example, if a child's it's not like these are people who, due to economic circumstance or socio-political circumstance, had to commit violence to survive. And that I can understand. These are people who were committing violence for their own pleasure.
Yes.
I don't want my 10-year-old around anybody who does that. Period. I don't understand that logic. Maybe it's different because, of course, they're all the two murderous people are the sons of Atreus and Catherine, and they're like, well, maybe they're not really that bad. I don't know though. I don't think I could justify it, but
I don't know. Either way, they have a relationship. They're not unknowns to each other.
Okay.
Achenar begs us to pull the amber lever instead of the silver one so that everyone's memories will get straightened out.
Oh.
Sirrus, as Yisha, protests that it will kill her, and Achenar begs you to pull it before the memory chamber loses all of its power because he stole the life stone.
Okay.
There's a couple bad endings, obviously, here, but in the canon good ending, if you want to see the bad endings, they're on YouTube. Long story short, they're bad. Like, Sirrus wins, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, in the canon good ending, we have to trust Achenar and pull the amber lever. Sirrus protests, saying that his performance was perfect. Nobody's performance in this game is perfect.
Yeah.
Especially when the young child actor is playing Sirrus.
That's hard.
Yeah.
That's a lot to expect.
Again,
for a
not
child.
judging any actor. I'm not a professional actor by any stretch of the
Child
imagination.
acting is a difficult thing.
Acting in a game, and I don't know what the direction was like or anything, but it just comes across as cheesy and a little hammy at times for everybody. But I think, of course, that's also the genre.
Yeah,
so
that's fair.
I mean, we're not in Zork levels of cheesy ham, but but there has to be just a tiny bit, I think, in the full motion video genre because you're dealing with real actors talking to a green screen.
Right.
Like, let's be
fair.
honest. In early days of green screen.
Very early days of green screen.
And then Sirrus swears revenge on Achenar before falling unconscious as this memory swap starts happening. Achenar is kind of surprised and admits something has gone wrong with the memory chamber as it trembles, kind of death imminent.
Oh, wow.
Achenar explains that the memory chamber is close to dying and that without it, Yisha is doomed. He tells us to visit Dream while he uses the life stone to stall the process. To do that, Achenar has to insert the life stone directly into this dead plant, breaking open the glass that encases the toxic spores and exposing himself in the process. Basically, what they did is, over the course of their rampage, they also gathered materials for this plan that included, like, suits that could go underwater, and they would use that in the toxic environment to kind of build up this structure around it so that the spores would stop getting out into the chamber.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
So there was like a whole big plan to this. They worked it all out, and now Achenar is basically undoing it all.
Right, exactly.
So we then return to Dream, where our spirit guide, whatever one it was, explains that Yisha is unable to return to Serenia as her connection to her body is prematurely severed.
Whoa.
Our guide then brings us to Yisha, where an interloper is clinging on to her to survive. And it looks kind of like Eternal Darkness in a weird way.
Oh, whoa.
Not 100%, but it reminds me of it, because you have, like, Yisha is this kind of tiny glowing ball, and you have, like, this weird tentacle, like, blah, 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 like, thing grabbing onto her. Yeah. It's weird. But that's Sirrus, and Sirrus doesn't have a spirit guide and will die if he's left alone in Dream.
Oh, wow.
So he remains hidden from her. However, he is scrambling their common memories, confusing her as to whom the memories belong to.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
So the guide suggests that we sort them out, which would stun Sirrus long enough for Yisha to go free. Basically wake her up. After successfully unscrambling the memories through another mind-numbing puzzle, Sirrus unlatches himself from Yisha, who returns to her body, and Sirrus drifts off into Dream, unable to return to Serenia without a guide, and dies, his memories and mind separated from his body.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
We return to Serenia, where Achenar, short on breath, congratulates us and explains that it was for the greater good, and expresses regret for all of his past actions. He reassures Yisha and then dies, basically slumping and his head in her lap.
Oh, wow.
So, back on Tamana, Atreus thanks us and assures us that Yisha is all right and totally not at all scarred by having her eldest brother die right in front of her in order to save her.
Yeah, there's no way that's going to scar her for life, ever. Oh, my gosh.
Atreus, he obviously didn't say that, but Atreus expresses his sadness and regret over Sirrus and Achenar's deaths, though he promises to devote more of himself to Yisha and give her the best upbringing she could possibly have. Though what becomes of Yisha we'll find out eventually. And that ends Myst 4, as well as our time as the Stranger.
Right, because if we're gonna follow up with Yisha at some point.
Well, we never play as Yisha, but she is in the next 2 games.
I figured we would not, but
these are also the last time we play as the Stranger.
Okay.
The next 2 games in the series have different player characters.
But I'm assuming it's the same premise. If you found a book and you accidentally fell into an age?
No.
Oh. Are you a Denis?
No.
Oh.
We will get there, but the next time we cover Myst will probably be the Book of Tiana. So
right.
That'll be 2 episodes.
Yes. Yes. From what I understand, it will have to be. Wow. Oh my gosh. Yeah, there's no way Yisha's not scarred. Wow. So, for those of you who are wondering this holidays, if you're the only one who doesn't want to have dinner with your family, you are not alone. Jeez. Wow. You know, I've had a lot of crazy stuff happen with my families. You know.
Yeah.
People deciding they're not going to funerals. People surprising me with cousins I didn't know I had. But I will still take my family over this mess. Like, what is this? Oh, my God. Oh, wow.
Yeah. I did see YouTube comments about this one all over the place, and some people absolutely hate this one. Like, a lot of people consider the first 3 as the only actual Myst games. This one is like, oh, it changes the canon because of the prison books, and it has all this stuff with Yisha. And then the next 2 are vast departures from the previous ones. So it's just like, oh, these aren't as real or whatever. But gatekeeping our content, gatekeeping the fandom. But yeah, so gatekeeping fandoms.
Yeah, not suggested.
No.
And you're allowed to decide that one part of a property you love is not for you.
Yeah. Now, of course, all of this may be changed at some point in the future if we get a Myst sequel again.
Right.
And who knows what they may do with the remake of Riven. So.
Well, not a lot that would necessarily change this per se, unless they decide to write in that Gen had more influence with his grandsons than we were led to believe.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to change in that regard. I'm wondering if they'll fix that canon problem, though, with the prison books.
I still don't think it's a problem. I still think you're overthinking it. Oh, my gosh.
There have been vast debates about this in the fandom. So.
Oh, I'm sure. All right. Well.
Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for joining us. That was a lot, guys. That was a lot. Thanks for joining us and riding this crazy ride with us. This is our last episode before Christmas.
That's true.
Which we celebrate, so Merry Christmas. And
I'll go with Happy Holidays just in case there are more people than...
Oh, Happy Holidays in general. Yeah. Happy Holidays.
Because we have friends ourselves who do not celebrate Christmas but celebrate other holidays at this time.
That's true. So Happy Holidays. Happy Winter Solstice. And just remember, even when it's there's always darkness before the dawn. As trite as that is, I feel like it's the time of year to keep remembering that. So.
Okay. I'm just remembered of the that hymn they sing in Dragon Age now.
Yes. The dawn will come. It's a great hymn. It's so good.
It's a good scene.
It's very good. It's a good song.
Which eventually you'll get to in your Dragon Age playthrough.
Yes. So patrons are seeing it first, but we're going to release them a month later, and we are doing the episodes with Laura Idukin.
Yes, we are only in Dragon Age Origins right now. It's going to take a while before we get to In Your Heart Shall Burn.
A long while. But patrons get to also make decisions for Laura, like who is she going to romance? Who will she side with? What decisions will she make? So, there you go. But other than that, catch us on our live streams. So the Thursday after this, we will be playing Myst 4.
Yes.
And alternate Thursdays, we're still going through Skies of Arcadia.
Yeah.
Because that game never ends, apparently.
We're getting towards the end, though.
We are getting towards the end, though. All right. Thanks so much again, guys.
Thank you very much.
Catch you next time. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Bye.
Bye.